who's your number one offseason?
Yeah, this one's the easiest one, but and it sort of falls into the category of like, given where they were, obviously it has to go this way. But the Raiders,
Yeah.
celebrate Walt in the chat. But I think they brought in the right coach. I think they brought in a good quarterback. It was the right decision. I think they were right to throw a boatload of money at Tyler Linderbaum and try and overhaul that offensive line. I think Kirk Cousins was a smart signing to give you the flexibility again, like Rasheed Walker and Monroe Freeling. You can decide now whether Mendoza needs to sit, whether he has to, or whether you can start in week one. Cousins allows you to do that. He's also, I think, the right kind of quarterback to mentor. Like Cousins at this point has to understand that he is a backup, right? And then maybe he has a chance to play starting games here or there, but like his time as a starter is basically done. And I think Cousins is probably a smart player to present to Mendoza as the guy. Like, this is how you do it, right? Watch Kirk. And Mendoza, given his maniacal tendencies of like, give me the headshot list of all my teammates, etc., so I know them by sight before I've even met them. Cousins is exactly the right guy to kind of program that into him from the get-go. So I like that. I like a couple. I'm not universally in love with their free agency haul. I think Quay Walker is not a particularly good player, and they gave him a lot of money. However, Nakobe Dean, I think, is a good player, and they brought him in as well. So, like, they made so many moves in free agency that automatically I'm not going to love them all, but I think they brought in some good players.
The counterfactual of if they had pick 14 and the Ravens first rounder next year would
For the Max Crosby thing.
versus
Yeah.
Max Crosby would have been interesting. But look, if Max Crosby goes out and balls out this year, and
Yeah.
it's fascinating because they made all those free agent moves, bringing in Kwity Paye, bringing in the two linebackers. They made all those moves assuming that Max Crosby was off the team. Then you
Right.
drop him back in there.
With 2 first-round picks coming in, yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, I think you'd still rather have the 2 first-round picks for the long term. But in the short term, if Max is there, I mean, the defensive line can at least be formidable. I mean, it's a little better defensively. Bring Eric Stokes back. I thought, coming off of a decent year, bring in Teron Johnson. Maybe a little risky with his injury history, but he's an impact nickel. Yeah, there's a lot to like about the Raiders. The big one being, okay, poor Pete Carroll at this, things were just awful for him last year. We should be better with Clint Kubiak. That's the thought process.
Yeah.
You get Mendoza in there, and Linderbaum and the offensive line. Like they improved in a lot of different areas that were poor last year.
Yeah, the coaching thing is interesting because this time a year ago we were saying, Pete Carroll, okay, it's an interesting hire because of his age, but theoretically Carroll is a great guy to come in and overhaul the culture of an organization. And actually the culture got worse, if anything, right? Sure, training camp was great vibes with the Zorbs and whatever, right? Everything looked like a great time, but then the season arrived and his son was involved and he wasn't fired and other people were fired. And it was like, actually, him and Chip Kelly hated each other from the get-go. It was always a forced marriage and the whole thing fell apart. So the one thing that Carroll was supposed to be bringing to that organization didn't happen at all. Now, Kubiak's an interesting hire because, number one, I think his offense is a good fit for Mendoza, for Cousins. It's a good mesh there schematically. We don't know because obviously he's a first-time head coach. Like, how will he do with the other 15 elements of the job? However, he has been brought up around the game, like literally from childhood. I mean, son of a coach, he's been around. He's seen a bunch of successful head coaches do this. If anybody has been prepared for this job, from a very young age, and this is the thing, like, as much as nepotism generally is a bad thing, there's reasons why sometimes there's like some logic to it, right? Like a guy like Kyle Shanahan had been brought up around the game, had seen it from a lot of successful coaches from a very young age. Like, there are some potential positives that nepotism can add to your resume.
I mean, yeah, you get into the family business, and you're trained in the family business, just like
right. And not just trained.
Sons of doctors tend to become doctors, not podcasters.
Exactly, right? So to me, I made this point, I think, during the draft shows. Like the biggest, or maybe it was the PFF show, but the biggest flaw to nepotism to me is not necessarily the guy getting the job in the first place. It's that your ability to impartially analyze whether he's doing a good enough or a good job once you give him the job is tainted, right? So actually, like Kubiak, I think, has a lot of benefits to being brought up as the son of a head coach and had been around a lot of very good head coaches himself. That's the benefit to like your father having done this, your various having been in various systems from a very young age. So I think he is theoretically a very good hire. Now we just get to see if he can put that into practice.
Yeah, Raiders, I'd say, moving in the right direction to get your quarterback. Still could use another offseason of, defensive additions, of maybe some pass catchers, and we'll see if players develop there. But they're banking on that here. Second draft for John Spytek.
And then the draft overall, I think, was a good mix. And then the big sort of the X factor in there being Geram McCoy,
right,
and what they can get out of him as a fourth-round draft pick, a guy that had first half of the first round talent, but fell because of that knee injury and the concerns for what the long-term implications of that are, right? What do the Raiders get out of him? Number one, does he miss time, and if so, how much? And will he be healthy? And then number two, if he's healthy, do they hit on that as a player?
I want to see how they play that too, because there's this inevitable surgery that he needs to have, but seemingly inevitable, but not. It's not right now. It's not in the short term. It's at some point, and then after the fact, don't know how bad it's going to be. So going to be interested to see if they try to get a year out of him. If they're like, hey, let's just have the surgery and let's try to get years 2, 3, and 4 out of you. I want to see how they play that.
I mean, from a truly,
but he's a fourth rounder. So.
Yeah. Well, but a first
upside high, downside. We lost a fourth rounder.
Oh yeah, it's like a very low risk proposition from the Raiders' point of view, and from a strictly cynical business, the NFL is a business. They've already shown it is, because he was literally the first pick of the round where the contract money changes structure. From a truly cynical point of view, if you didn't think he needed the surgery, short term, you would try and work out whether you hit on the player or not in the first place before you even thought about the surgery stuff, right? Because, first, just because you're a top 15 talent in the first round doesn't mean you're going to be a good player. I mean, we've seen that particularly at corner. Guys bust all the time. So from the Raiders' point of view, you would be like, well, let's play him as a rookie. Let's try and work out if he's actually good or not. And if he's not good, then he can get his surgery and do whatever he wants, and we get rid of him, right? If he is good, then we talk about the time scale and how we, manage this year that he's going to miss and his return and blah, blah, blah. But from their point of view, it's like, let's work out if he's a good player. And then if he is, we've got a steal, even factoring in the fact that he has to miss a year.
Got anything else on the Raiders in your top offseason here?
No, just, generally across the board, I think that's a very good offseason. They added a ton of players, which again it helps look like a good offseason if you just added a lot of players, because, again, you're not going to love them all, but you focus on the ones you do like. You're like, well, they added a lot of players I like.
Yeah, a lot of players.
Yeah. But I think between the hiring of Kubiak, the cleaning house of the coaching staff that clearly wasn't a good mix last year, and the draft and free agent hauls that they brought in, even knowing that some of those players won't be good, it's a really nice step in the correct direction.
I think the biggest thing for the Raiders is they're embracing this rebuild. Now, look, you had the number 1 overall pick. Of course, you're going to draft a quarterback.
Right.
But I always cite when Ziegler and McDaniels got there in 22, and they should have been rebuilding, and they traded for Devontae Adams and doubled down on Derek Carr. And then last year, it was a curious move to bring in Pete Carroll and Geno Smith when they should have been rebuilding. They were the clear 4th best team in the division. They delayed the rebuild. They drafted a lot, but they delayed the rebuild by a year by bringing Geno in. I mean, he set them up for the number 1 pick, so maybe it helped. But maybe I'm wrong.
40 chess.
But clearly they were trying to bring Geno Smith in to hey, maybe we go 9 wins. Let's get 9 or 10 wins, sneak into the playoffs here. And, they stumbled into Mendoza, so I guess it worked.
I also think, so the receiving core looks bad on paper, but it's another one of those teams a little bit like the 49ers years ago when – their number 1 receiver is Brock Bowers, right? And if he comes back healthy, as opposed to the sort of injured, he's good enough to play but not be the player that he should be. If he comes back truly healthy this season, well, then the receiving core of Jalen Naylor and Trey Tucker and Jack Besh and maybe Dante Thornton or whatever, that group looks so much better if Bowers is the guy getting the high volume targets and blah, blah. It looks rough on paper now, but it might actually be better in practice than we expect it to be.